Dogma and spiritual hierarchy isn't the one. Collaborative connection and shared wisdom is. But you already know that, because sitting inside mainstream Reiki communities is often like choking inside a gilded cage. Truth traded for toxic conformity, experience wielded like a weapon to silence others, individuality stifled for compliance. So I invite you to my free online non-guru community with no hierarchy or all-knowing behaviour. Here, we don't follow, we liberate. We don't obey, we expand. We don't go with the crowd, we cultivate our own path together. Which means this isn't a space where your voice is silenced if it sounds different or where your questions are met with judgment. Because genuine heart led connection and collaboration is rooted in truth, in trust, and integrity. Where authenticity thrives, respect is embodied, and every unique voice is honoured as equal. I had a quick scroll, 3 flicks up on my phone to be specific, on my socials this morning. The crushing weight of collapsing systems alongside pleas for me to contribute to fixing that. A meme about my light triggering the unhealed and inverted commas, and an energy worker sending me Reiki through my phone screen. Not all of them from pages that I follow, mind you. The beauty of the algorithm, right? And there it is. The flood of mixed messages, all telling me to care, all tangled in the noise of lack, what I'm supposed to be, do, or heal in my not enoughness, all telling me what I need, how I should act, creating comparison or evoking shame. And that's the challenge of living as we do now, right? Where most are addicted to speed, I find I crave stillness, sinking into the pause between breaths. Constantly bombarded with information or advice, when I yearn for depth, urgency, when what I long for is presence, not because I don't care, but because I care so deeply. I'm starting to pivot. I mentioned the word healing there. I'm starting to pivot on that word heal, actually. I'm preferring embrace. I feel like heal has become synonymous with ridding ourselves on a never ending search to attain a way of being or feeling, when in truth, for me, it's about embracing, embodying, integrating all of myself. That's a really different intentional energy for me attached to embracing. As someone who is hugely intuitively empathic, I'm not just naturally wired to care, it's the core of my authentic essence. It's who I am. I'm sensitive, I care deeply, I feel on a profound level. Now, some folks resonate with those labels: intuitively empathic, highly sensitive person. Some don't. Either way, it's fine. It's a label I've developed to support me to honour my own gifts, my sensitivities, and align with my true essence and soul-led work. So I've continued to use those. I grew up always knowing what others were thinking, how they were feeling. I could sense the unspoken undertone. I was always a bit scared of the dark, because in the dark, when the daytime busyness had ended, and I didn't know what was going on then, but I could sense, I could feel, I could see spiritual insights. As I got older, I'd pee around others in my family, feeling their moods deeply, rush in to fix or sort that, because I couldn't stand the feeling of it in my body. I always knew when I was a teenager out with friends who was with who liked who. The traits of the ability, intuitive empath, are never ending, really, and I'll touch on that more today, I'm sure, as a chat. All of this for me eventually added up to being a burden, something that felt too much, too heavy, too consuming. I used to wonder why I couldn't just toughen up on the inside, be less affected, hold back these waves of emotion that seemed to crash through me without warning. I learned to see beautiful softness as a flaw, a weakness to overcome. Because whether it displayed as too much or not, I certainly felt it. It felt too much. And for me, if I wanted to stop feeding the systems that trained me to abandon myself, essentially, I had to begin by reclaiming what's real for me, the truth of who I am, in all my shades and all my deep feels. In my daily life, I was energetically porous, constantly absorbing emotions and energies that were not mine. Now, whilst it's scientifically true that we all as humans have got the ability to pick up and take on others' energy to some extent, intuitive empaths like me feel that on a deep level. Now, in an energetic way, on an energetic level, I was drained, depleted, tired, taking on others' emotional and energetic stuff. I simply couldn't nurture, maintain, sustain vibrant personal energy. It was always worse on the more challenging days too, when I'd have a naturally lower ebb in my tank because of where I was at in my menstrual cycle, for example. So I'd try things to help myself: grounding practice, meditation, various other holistic classes of different sorts. And I could find some peace and stillness within some of that, but none of it was lasting and none of it felt integrated into my everyday. I basically couldn't identify that I was taking on others' emotional and energetic stuff and that I was having such a drastic impact. So I looked everywhere outside of myself to help me, to support me. Because that's what we're taught, isn't it? That any answers lie outside of ourselves in systems, experts, methods, rather than within our own selves, that we've got the power to be able to help ourselves simply in being. And it wasn't for a lack of trying to help myself to feel better. I was always trying really hard. For me, just not in the right areas. Crowds, family gatherings, even a single conversation, dependent upon the person, could leave me feeling flat, anxious, heavy, low, a whole host of ways, especially when others offloaded on me, which of course I attracted in as an intuitive, empathic person. I guess I'll circle back to that actually. My tank of vitality fueled energy was consistently low. I could, of course, mask this with a smile, perhaps a tear shed behind a closed door. I was moving on autopilot, a tick sheet, always on the go. I lived for the weekends, for sure. Time out or off, which I could never actually be 100% present in anyway. I was stuck in a state of dysregulation, anxiety, and stress, always a factor somewhere. And quite honestly, I believe that that is just the way it was for me. I didn't really come up for breath to notice the why, to be able to question it until I stopped living at speed. Because stopping living at speed meant I had no other option but to take stock of what was actually going on for me. So I resisted that, probably for years. The stuff that we would all really rather avoid, quite frankly. But what was the option? The option was to continue to go, 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 do, live on the surface and never be able to connect with myself or others below that. I took others' pain on at my own cost. If someone was in a mood, I'd take that on and I'd be in a similar one. If I was at a, let's say, a work meeting in my old corporate job and the room was high vibe, as it's described, I'd take 4 days to go over that on the other side. Emotional sovereignty was non-existent for me. I was always emotionally entangled with others' stuff, always. And I wasn't just energetically porous. I didn't have the physical skill set to nurture, sustain, maintain vibrant personal energy. And I tend to find that's true of most, given the culture we're brought up in. We don't tend to be taught how to protect or preserve our personal energy with physical skills. Overgiving, often to the point of burnout, is praised, mostly called selfless, like it's a good thing, because that's what we're taught, right? Our value lies in giving. Pouring out is the noble thing, and receiving or turning inwards is in some way indulgent. I found that to be a truly, truly exhausting path. I really couldn't bear the others' emotions in my body, so I'd rush to fix or soothe them just to find relief. Saying no felt impossible because I could feel someone's disappointment or frustration at me saying no, like it was my own. So here I'd rather feel personally terrible. It often felt to me like I was going to internally combust. I'd rather feel terrible than take on the pain of someone else feeling terrible and add that on to the fact that I was a chronic people pleaser. And then add that on, that I was the world's biggest saviour. I wanted to help sort fix everybody. Saying no, or instating a boundary, or indeed dealing with any level of conflict, it was just horrendous for me. I was therefore physically reactive rather than physically responsive. Responsive being where I could separate my stuff from other people's, be responsible only for my stuff and not overly responsible for what was going on with anybody else. And I could respond from a place of regulation rather than react from a place of overwhelm. My reaction would often be flying off the handle, like a fireball, and not at the thing that was actually the issue. It was because of a build-up. The opposite end of that for me looked like very emotional, crying, unable to really piece together or explain why it was that I was so emotional. I betrayed myself in 100 small ways because I didn't have the tools to support my own personal energy. From understanding the mechanics of unseen energy, I became more and more lost with a depleting sense of self. My sense of self, my self-identity was lost under the weight of all of this. And you know something, the gift of intuitive empath from a place of empowerment, not being trapped, is the gold that has allowed me to be a transformational guide, leading authentically, trusting insights that are born from grounding my intuition and spiritual wisdom in spiritual authority. And I see this time and time again with those that welcome me into their world as well. Let me share. Personally, I'd attract people who offload. Professionally, I attract people who value the depth of my services. Where in my personal life, I'd often try to fix and save others. In my professional life, I empower others to find their own solutions. Where personally, I'd give out from obligation, leading to overwhelm and burnout. I serve professionally from a place of authentic compassion. And again, true for those that I've got the pleasure of walking alongside on their journey. Everything that was once a burden, holding me trapped inside being an intuitive empath, is a gift liberated by being an empowered intuitive empath. This had catastrophic consequences in my Reiki sessions, though I didn't realise just how much at the time. Because if in life I was picking up and taking on other people's emotional and energetic stuff, you absolutely guessed it. It was happening inside Reiki sessions as well. Here's something that I wasn't aware of. Mainstream Reiki attunements, no matter how good or bad we think they were, they hold an intentional energy. They intensify our natural, intuitive, empathic abilities. It's one of the reasons, one of the contributing factors, out with levels, lineage, hierarchy, gatekeeping, the many things that I chat to you here about, that I don't subscribe to attunements. We don't need an attunement to reconnect with our spiritual selves. So I was already in life trapped within my gift. Then I did mainstream Reiki training. So that didn't heighten and intensify my empowered intuitive empathic abilities. It heightened and intensified my trapped intuitive empathic abilities. If burnout wasn't inevitable before, I was sure on the road to burnout after that. A mainstream Reiki attunement, I've just kind of mentioned it there a little bit, is all about reconnecting with spirit, which I didn't know. I didn't know that. I had a Reiki attunement because it's just how it was done. I didn't question it. I didn't know there was an alternative. We can use that word spirit, spirit-led wisdom, or spiritual wisdom here. You don't actually need an attunement to reconnect with spiritual wisdom. An attunement says we've got to be given access. I mentioned this last week, by someone higher up the ladder, through levels and through lineage, through a system that's keeping us reaching out the way. But in my experience, spiritual connection was never meant to be passed down through hierarchy. It's to be remembered from within. We don't need to be attuned by a system. We just got to remember. Now, it's likely I'll explore more on attunements in another episode, but I felt called to share that there with you. In my Reiki sessions with others, I was both giving personal energy away to clients and taking clients' energy on as my own. So here I would feel drained, tired, depleted, hot, sick, ill, off, however my client was feeling emotionally or physically. Chaotic, flighty, as some examples. That could be after one session with a client, after a day of working with them, or every now and again, maybe with the same client on different occasions. I wasn't retaining my own energy in sessions in two main ways that would then go on to really serve me to reclaim my sovereign energy practice, strong in my spiritual authority. And I would like to share those with you today because I believe that part of my purpose here as an authentic leader is to inspire others to embrace their own depth, their own sensitivity, their innate gifts, allowing them to tangibly, practically unearth for themselves the support they need without outsourcing that to any external place to be a transformational guide and authentic leader themselves. The term for either giving away energy to a client in a session or taking on a client's energy on as your own is called energetic bleed. I found energetic bleed challenging to identify because, as I've shared with you already, I was really used to picking up and taking on other people's emotional and energetic stuff in my life. So, in and after a Reiki session, this would just simply be amplified. My ability to recognise this in life was fairly limited, if not non existent, far less in terms of my Reiki practice. Here's something I've learned: genuine energetic integrity supports spiritually guided healing. Energetic bleed doesn't. And what do I mean by that? And perhaps how can you uncover the benefits of that for yourself? If my experience here is resonating with you on a level. So let's explore. Perhaps let me explain like this. For potent spiritually guided healing to take place, the key, in my experience, is that we as practitioners have got to become the bridge between the spiritual world and the physical world. Just let me be really clear what I mean by the physical and the spiritual worlds or realms. The non-physical realm being the physical realm being the realm that we operate on and within daily. The spiritual realm being the non-physical dimension of existence, inhabited by consciousness beyond the material world. Spiritual realm, spiritual wisdom, spirit-led wisdom. These interchangeable terms that I keep referring to. It's not the same as being psychic or psychic connection. I think I may have mentioned this before. Spiritual wisdom, born from the spiritual realm, is the guidance open and available for us all to harness all the time to enhance our life and practice in a way that knowledge, mental body, nor intuition, emotional body, can provide. Without being that bridge between the physical and spiritual worlds, healing remains confined to the physical realm, where the only option is for some level of energetic bleed, particularly if we aren't using energetic protection. And I'm going to return to energetic protection. There are only two options available when it comes to our role as a practitioner in healing. One is being the bridge between the physical and spiritual realms, allowing spiritually guided healing to flow. And I call this being the safe and effective hollow bone. Or, number two, being the direct source of healing. When you're the direct source of healing, you're not bridging the world because there's nothing to bridge. So you can only work on the physical realm. Makes sense, right? And as the direct source of healing, energetic bleed pretty much in nearly all cases in my experience is inevitable. Like it was for me, not even just in the beginning, but as an S4E Reiki master as well. Before I dropped that title. Now, some of us have the gift of feeling how our client feels. It can be a really useful part of our healing work, but this is different from energetic bleed. And the difference is that As I mentioned before, true energetic integrity supports spirit-led healing, and energetic bleed doesn't. Unless we can be absolutely certain that we're acting as a clear bridge for spiritually guided healing, it's likely that energetic bleed is at play in some way, manifesting in some of the ways that I mentioned before. For me personally, drained, tired, flighty, hot, feeling however my client was feeling, and so on. Often, in my experience, when practitioners encounter this, they're advised to just ground more. Grounding doesn't make up for a lack of energetic protection or address the need to be a safe, effective bridge for spiritually guided healing. I can't talk about this enough. It's something that I've personally experienced and encountered also. And had I had that piece of wisdom, energetic protection and grounding are two different things, and grounding won't make up for a lack of energetic protection. Had I had that piece of wisdom, honestly, I believe it would have changed the trajectory of where I was headed many years ago on my spiritual Reiki path. With spiritually guided healing, it makes no difference, therefore, whether you're in the same room as your client or oceans apart. The power of the healing remains just as potent, just as profound. This, in my experience, is often why mainstream distance Reiki can feel less potent, like something's missing, or why confidence might waver when working in this way. Practitioners obviously rely on the methods they've been taught, like I very much did, which are designed for physical realm healing, but there's a gap, there's a disconnect. To really truly harness the pure clear essence of Reiki energy and its full potential, spiritually guided healing, in my experience, is essential to bridge the physical and spiritual worlds, unlocking the deeper layers of transformative, truly transformative healing, whether in person or at a distance. There's a belief, this mainstream belief, that Reiki must be taught or practiced in person, is one of the many myths born from mainstream conditioning. The idea alone exposes the grip of dogma, narratives shaped by those who cling to hierarchy, gatekeep spiritual access, position themselves as the sole holders of all truth. I tend to find that people who make their way into my world are already called, pulled to work in this way with spiritually guided healing. They might experience flashes out the corner of their eye, colours, animals, flowers, sense presence, either in a session with a client or in their everyday life. They sense it's got meaning, but don't fully know how to decode that. When we start working with energy, whether we know it or not, in my experience, we open ourselves up to working with it unseen. Just ordinarily with mainstream Reiki, without the ability to strengthen our gifts safely and effectively in that area. So can then spend months, even years, like I did, trying to put the jigsaw together, but without all the pieces available to actually be able to do that. And the second thing that I wanted to share, and this is something that, if there was one piece of wisdom born from my own experience, one insight, one skill that I could pass on in this lifetime, that I wholeheartedly sense would shift the paradigm of how we all could live and experience the world, it would be this. As an intuitive, empathic person, as a Reiki trained person, or someone interested in supporting others with energy work, I'd invite you to harness daily energetic protection in life that benefits in more ways than I personally could ever have imagined possible. This is where being a trapped intuitive empath shifts to becoming an empowered intuitive empath. No more taking on other people's emotional or energetic stuff that doesn't belong to you in daily life. No more feeling drained, tired, depleted, or however your client feels in or after a session. And in Embodied Echoes, in the free Afterpod workshop, in my free non-guru online community, I've crafted an experience for you this week where you can discover how to embrace energetic protection for yourself in your daily life. If that calls to you, I'll chat to you more about that in a second. Here, harnessing energetic protection, we can embody our innate, unique gifts from a place of genuine truth, where compassion, the gentleness, the care, the softness that we bring to the world, and simply just being us, is the impact, is the force for change, both personally and professionally. We aren't pouring out via obligation or hanging ourselves on the altar of giving freely. We're honouring and respecting ourselves with the ability to support others from a place of sovereignty. For me, what more beautiful a gift might I be able to offer the world than the sacred echo of tender, nurturing grace, softness, weaving through the fabric of my life from a place of truth and empowerment, not obligation or depletion. Now, if you feel this episode has unearthed a truth for you and you want to meet that shift with presence and confidence in your unique energy work in your life, I've dropped a free practical spirit-led Reiki experience inside, like I mentioned before, the free community. What you can harness within Embodied Echoes is always designed to amplify your spiritual authority, specifically related to the episode that you've just listened to this week. You can embark on a spirit-led Reiki journey to access the spiritual realm and meet your guardian guide. This guide acts as a filter, keeping your emotional and energetic materials and everybody else's separate. So that as an intuitive, empathic person, you're not picking up and taking on other stuff in a way that might keep you trapped within your gift. This guide is one that I personally work with the most on a consistent daily basis. So I really look forward to sharing that with you. Whether you're new to this type of experience or not, Reiki trained or not, as always, Embodied Echoes is open for everybody. We'll gather in sacred ceremony and you'll leave not just with a full understanding of the why and the how of Guardian Guide, but you'll be able to integrate connecting with this guide that is exclusive for you into your life to feel the tangible benefits, enhancing your reality. And as ever, there's added value surprises waiting on you inside the workshop as well, if you feel the call. Either way, I look forward to connecting with you inside our community or right here next episode. My mission is to co-create an integrity-rich spiritual industry where authentic personal power isn't gatekept, distorted or diluted, it's liberated, embodied and honoured. So I'm here to dismantle what distorts and restore what's sacred, sovereign and soul-led. I don't break the rules to rebel, I shake up to return to integrity, because sameness breeds self-doubt. When we're constantly trying to fit in, we start to question what's real for us, drifting further from the voice within that already knows the way. True connection isn't found in replication, it's found in reclamation.